Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Hearthstone. And today we're going to be going into a little bit of longer games. We're going to be talking about some ways of playing longer games, and unfortunately the unfortunate position that long games have in the game of Hearthstone. But first I just want to preface the idea that, I know these videos are very inconsistent, and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it so that we have some a stable flow of videos coming out. So I'm thinking once a week for now, and we'll see how far that goes. As you can see in this game, we are against a mage, and I believe this game is a very average kind of game in terms of the long games, in terms of playing very late games. And the priest is really good.
My magic will tear you apart.
It's a really good class to play if you're playing the long game. Pretty much priest, druid, and warrior are the three classes that are, when you hear those classes, you almost assume it's going to be, a game that lasts to the 8 to 10 mana mark and after that, right? Which usually is very difficult at these lower leagues, at the level 16 where I'm at right now, because everyone plays Zoo. Everyone plays fast, in-your-face decks that will constantly just make you lose around the 6 to 7 mana point turn in the game. So that's the difficulty of playing these kinds of decks. However, if you go in to a game with the right mindset, you can come out with the win and really punish these Zoo players for playing such an abusive style. So these long games are going to be all about endurance. The way you play a deck where most of your cards are going to be at the lower end of the spectrum, or no, not the lower end, the higher end of the spectrum, right? Where most of your cards are at the 5 to 10 mana cards, right? For me, you can see in my hand right now, we've already got Dr. Boom in there, and we've got a Sludge Belcher. So we've got a pretty good curve right now. So that's something that's really good about this hand in particular. But I want to stress the idea of endurance. Endurance. And you'll see that in Control Warrior, in Control Priest decks, really the terminology of control is the one term that everyone uses to describe these decks that will usually lead to the late game, where the idea here is that you're going to sort of endure, and you're going to keep yourself alive long enough to get to the end where your deck really shines, where your deck has a lot of power in it. As you can see with the Cobalt Shadow Priest, right, you can get a ton of tempo by playing this card that puts a minion on the field for you and steals an opponent's minion at the same time. So right now we're just kind of, because we know we're against a mage, you want to be able to bait out the fireballs and the polymorphs. So we got one polymorph down. Again, another great thing about these control decks is that you've just got so many minions that are really strong and really powerful that you can bait out a lot of removal and still have like a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of damage to dish out later on. So we got a fireball. So we've got one fireball down and one polymorph down. Always be cognizant of that when you're playing against a mage, because usually I would think that in most cases they will have at least 2 fireballs. There are some mages. Mech Mage actually doesn't have polymorph because it's 2 cards that you could rather translate to aggression. And since you're going to kill them, since your strategy is that you're going to kill your opponent before they send out any big creatures anyways, polymorph really isn't that useful. So that's why in Mech Mage, polymorph is not usually seen. You might see one polymorph, and that's it. So again, if you look at our hand now, I mean, we've got a pretty late game-ish hand, right? I mean, everything past 4 mana is typically seen as late game-ish. Unfortunately, we got the lob bomber, the bomb lobber. Bomb lobber? So we're trying to figure out how we can use these Cobalt Shadow Priests, but we just can't right now. So the Shadow Word Pain could be thrown at the Bomb Lobber, or we could use Dr. Boom, but I just don't think it's useful.
Embrace the void.
So instead, we're just going to take out the Yeti, get ourselves a I don't even know what these are called anymore, but the one mana spells that the Yeti gives you. Spare parts, that's right. So yeah, pretty much what we're going for here is we're enduring, right? All I'm really trying to do right now against whatever this mage is doing, I don't really care what this mage is doing, which this kind of sucks because it's going to kill off our Akanai, is we're just trying to last until around turn 10. That's all we really care about. So what I'm doing is, it might seem like I'm throwing out these cards just so that they'll die, but what we're doing is we're just trying to buy time, and we're using our lower end of the spectrum, of the mana spectrum. We're using our lower mana minions to buy time, and that's really the purpose of those lower mana cost minions in a control deck. It's to buy time until the very end. And as you can see, Dr. Boom is a great bait. It's great bait for a polymorph. So we know he has no polymorphs left. We know he has one fireball left. So we can now play to these strengths and play to this advantage. So at the same time, I mean, our hand isn't full of big creatures yet. We just have 2 Cobalt Shadow Priests, which we can't necessarily use. We kind of need our, what is it called, the Shrinkmeister, in order to make the Cobalt Shadow Priest very, very useful. We think we're gonna silence that so that he can't get another guy, and then we're just gonna use the 2 cards we got. I mean, right now. So actually, this brings up a very something else to talk about, which is the purpose of this video, I guess. The 3 main mechanics of Hearthstone, and I talk about this a lot in other videos. I'll mention them, but I don't really talk about them. And those mechanics are card control, which is how many cards you're holding in your hand relative to your opponent. Board control, which is how many cards or how many minions you have out on the field relative to your opponent. And your health management, which is how much health you have. For the most part, it's very important to remember that the first 2 that I mentioned are all relative to your opponent. You can have 10 cards, and this is why Zoo is so powerful, is that Zoo completely disregards, or any Zoo or Mech Mage or any aggressive type of deck completely disregards the fact that card control is an important aspect of this game. It pretty much is saying, you know what, I don't really care about card control. I'm just going to throw everything on the board and kill you because I'm going to sacrifice my card control in order to do a ton of damage to your face, and hopefully we do enough damage to kill you before you can stabilize. And when I say stabilize, for a priest, I mean get to that 8 mana to 10 mana position where, your big guys, your big minions start coming out and start wrecking the board. So right here again, throwing my Dark Cultist, I'm thinking about it, throwing my Dark Cultist into the Frostwolf Warlord might not seem like a great idea.
My fate is sealed.
But again, all I'm trying to do, all I really want to do is buy time. I know we're already at 10 mana, but our hand unfortunately doesn't have the cards that we want. So again, we're still buying time so that we can get those big, hefty minions out onto the field. And for the most part, we're doing good on card control. We have 6 cards plus our minion on the board, and he has 5. Stormwind. That could be oh, the pain and suffering when you get a wisp in your unstable portal. I think this works. If we hit him with our Tinkertown Bro, and we use Holy Nova, we take them both out, and we heal ourselves. It's pretty sick play right there. So, again, this is that right there was an example of being able to grab tempo. Pretty much we were able to take out both of those cards by using one, because our Tinkertown guy did not die. So he's still in the game. So...
You win.
Oh! He just left. Probably because we got Gorehowl as our weapon. So that's gonna be good. But continuing on, I guess, looking into the 3 mechanics of Hearthstone. For the most part, you will always be giving up 1 and getting an advantage in 2 of them. So you have to be able to balance that out. For a Warlock, as we have right here, as a Warlock, and the reason why Warlock is so good with Zoo is because he is sacrificing health management so that he can get both board control and card control by having a lot of cards in his hand and having a lot of low mana cards in the deck. Warlocks are typically able to throw a lot of stuff on the field while still having a fairly healthy hand. And when I say fairly healthy hand, this is what I mean when I say that card control is relative to your opponent. The fact of the matter is, getting a card control against a Warlock isn't really that useful, because the Warlock can always use its hero power
Right away.
and, you know, get an extra card, whereas us as a priest, we can't really do that. We need other ways of getting cards. So we need to find another advantage that we can exploit. So what is our advantage as a control priest? Well, our advantage most of the time is our big chunky creatures at the end of the game. So, again, against a Warlock, look at these 2 cards out on the field. He's probably, you know, playing a very Zoo style. He's got the what is that? The imp,
Right away.
something imp. We do damage to it, and it creates an imp. So this could possibly be the imp boss. This could possibly be a Sea Giant deck, because as you get more imps, you're putting more guys on the field, and you're making it easier to get the Sea Giant out. So the funny thing here is that he seems to be wanting to take out all of our guys, and this is an unfortunate situation for us. I mean, he's got 6 things on the field. We do have Holy Nova. That is the one thing going for us. But do we use it now? Oh man. These are the decisions. Like, we are killing him in card control. However, card control, what card control does is it allows you to eventually get board control, right? If you have a lot of cards, you can continually shuffle out cards and trade them with your opponents while still maintaining that board control on the field.
The damned stand ready.
Unfortunately, we have a lot of cards, but we don't have anything on the field. So that's sort of the advantage that our opponent now has. In terms of numbering these 3 mechanics off in order of importance, I would say board control is most important, at least in terms of Hearthstone now, because of how much the game itself inherently almost encourages you to play a very fast-paced deck like Zoo. So I would put board control as probably the most important thing to deal with. Card control comes at a very close second, and health control, the great thing about health control is that, and I think I explained this in another video, so you'll probably hear me say this a lot, because I think it's something that not a lot of people have inherently or internally understood yet, is that if you win at 30 health and you win at 1 health, you got the same result. You won, right? It doesn't really matter what health you're at when you win. So you can lose as much health as you can, but as you get closer and closer to 0 health, you have to start figuring out how much more can I get away with this, right? How much more health can I lose? Like right now, I'm being pretty liberal with my health right now, and things aren't actually looking too good. We have Shadow Madness, which is pretty good because it allows us to effectively kill off 2 of his guys with 1 card. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us board control yet. and this guy seems to be very effective at taking out our stuff. And I have to keep healing myself because he's just doing so much damage to me. For the most part, like, I have Cobalt Shadow Priest. What can I do with that? Against a zoo, you might think that you have a lot of options to choose from, but the problem is that you have so many options to choose from that they're all bad options. So here, you know, the best option to choose from is probably the Haunted Creeper, just because of its death rattle effect. Here we can use the coin and use the Shrinkmeister and the Cobalt Shadow Priest to get the Nerubian, which might not be that bad, although I kind of want to heal, right? But instead, the Haunted Creeper, I think what I wanted to do was save the coin. Oh, never mind. Now that I think about it, it probably would have been a better play to take the Nerubian. Because looking at what he has on the field, the Nerubian can actually take out like 3 of his cards. And of course he had an owl, so unfortunately we didn't take the best selection, and now he's gonna just fill his board with imps, which sucks quite a lot. And again, right, a warlock with no cards means that a warlock can have 2 cards every single turn, provided he has the health. So perhaps my mistake in this game was not dealing enough damage to his health to prevent him from using his hero power, or to discourage him from using his hero power. Him or her. I'm sorry. I usually just automatically say him, but I'll say her this time. So really, right now, all we're fighting for is trying to get board control. Like, that's all we care about right now. And I don't know if we have... I mean, I don't know if we have the ability to do that at the moment. Because our cards are pretty high mana. But this is typically how most of the games will work. If you're against a zoo deck or some kind of aggressive deck, you're just stalling time all the way to the end. And unfortunately, he has a Doom Guard. We can't really do anything about that. And that's the game. So that was probably a good example of an aggressive deck, and we were unable to stabilize. We were unable to stall long enough to get the cards that we needed, because we needed maybe probably like a Sludge Belcher or something. And I don't think did we get a Sludge Belcher that entire game? I don't know if we did, and I don't think that we did. So screw that game. We're gonna go to the next game, because when you play Hearthstone, you have to be ready to lose. That's just something that's gonna happen. There's no deck that wins you the game 100% of the game. So we've got Paladin. At this point, I would assume... Oh man, it's hard to guess nowadays, because usually in these lower levels, in these lower leagues, you're gonna be playing against, you know, aggressive style decks, and it's quite unfortunate, because the reward system in Hearthstone. The unfortunate part is that when you win a short game or you win a long game, you get the same reward, right? You get 1 star or 2 stars if you're on a win streak. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. And so the system itself is almost encouraging. It's almost encouraging you to play these very fast, you know, 10-minute games. Maybe not even 10-minute games, but, you know, less than 10 minutes a game, right? So here we see a Cogmaster, we see a shielded mini-bot. The shielded mini-bot most paladins will have, Muster Battle most paladins will have, but the Cogmaster, that's very indicative. Okay, very indicative of an aggressive style deck. So this is already looking bad, because again, what I said before about board control being very important, especially when it comes to an aggressive deck. If you can take board control away from an aggressive deck early on, that is a great place to be. right? That is a really strong position to be in, because aggressive decks require board control. It's not even that board control is good, but a board control is absolutely necessary for an aggressive deck to have at all times. Why? Because board control, aggressive decks are sacrificing their card control, and they're sacrificing it for a powerful board. So if they don't get that board, they're sacrificing, or they're literally losing two, and from my opinion, two of the most important mechanics in this game, 2 out of the 3. And if you don't have board control, you probably are losing health pretty fast. So that's the reason why I rate those in that order, from board control to card control to health management, because health doesn't really matter as much. In fact, health management is all about how much health can I lose, how much can I get away with without losing the game, right? And so for a lot of new players that are playing, it's actually really good when you see some guy, like, you've got stuff on the field, they've got stuff on the field, and they start hitting your face. That's a good feeling, because now you get to dictate the game's direction. Because now it's your turn and you get to decide what your minions are going to attack. So you have a little bit more control of what's going on. And as you can see, this game is not going the way we want it to go. We really need something. I mean, Sludge Belcher here is going to, again, stall the game out for us, but we only have 15 health. That's not a lot of health, especially when he's got a full board. Thankfully, his full board is of 1/1s. So we can thank Muster for Battle for that. And we are also praying really hard that Quartermasters are not part of his repertoire right now. Really hoping. And I mean, we can read very easily from what he's been playing, what he's been doing. If he had a Quartermaster, he would have used it already, right? He had all of those 1/1s there. So we know for a fact he doesn't have a Quartermaster in his hand, which is great news. The bad news is, of course, we have 11 health, and that's not really good. We're just hoping. We're hoping for it. We got Tostingo on the board. The Senjin Shield Master. Oh gosh, 2 taunts. So our Black Knight could be useful, but now, and here we have the Holy Nova. And the great thing about this Control Priest is that there are so many ways of clearing the board. There will be those times where you don't get the board clears that you need, but most of the time you're gonna get at least one of those combos. Here, of course, we've got the Holy Nova that can be really useful here. However, the priest also utilizes the Akanai Soul Priest and the Circle of Healing combo, which can be extremely good because it does 4 damage to everything on the board. So if you've got nothing on the board and he's got a ton of stuff on the board, you can just eliminate all of it, provided that his minions have less than 4 health. So that's where the utility of the Control Priest and most control decks they have tons of ways of clearing the board of everything, and that's pretty much how they're balanced against these sort of zoo decks. These decks that just throw everything out on the field and then they fly into your face and you can't really do anything about it, right? Well, you can do something about it provided you have the cards. And that's really what Zoo is after. Zoo is going under the assumption that you're probably not going to get the card you want. And as a result, I'm going to win. So we have, oh my goodness. How much health do we have? We've got 8 health. Oh, now we've got 10 health. So this is a pinnacle moment or a critical moment in the game where I have very low health, and I gotta figure out what can I get away with. What are my options here? I mean, I don't really have many healing abilities. I've got my hero power, which I'm probably gonna have to use every single turn. That limits me in what I'm able to accomplish, and he's still attacking my face. So we've got, oh good, he came out with a taunt. So we're probably gonna use the Black Knight here, but we want to keep healing ourselves. We have to keep healing ourselves, or else, you know, he's gonna deal just enough damage to kill us off, and we need to keep getting board control. You can see that as a control player, you just want board control. I don't care about his health. I think it was Trump, right? The Hearthstone player Trump that said, as long as I have board control, I can do 30 damage whenever I want. Now, that's not entirely true, but most of the time, if you do have board control, you can do everything you need. And this, of course, this is where the game is good, where we like it, the game now, because we know all of his cards. We don't have to guess anymore. This is like the best feeling for any Hearthstone player, right? You're sitting there with your cards, and you're looking, he's got 4 cards, and you're like, what are those 4 cards? I need to know what those 4 cards are. Well, when he uses his last card, we know what all of his cards are. And now we can plan appropriately. And this is the point, okay, against a zoo or against an aggressive style deck, where you begin to ramp up, right? We were enduring the entire game. All we were doing was sitting here throwing stuff out on the field so that our opponent would look at that and go, okay, I need to get rid of that, but then I can't do as much damage to his face. Right? We're stalling. We're stalling.
Reporting for duty.
And now this is the point
The light does not
where
discriminate.
we're gonna start ramping up, and we're gonna go for the win. Granted that we don't die first. So we have, I believe we have 6 health. So we're most likely gonna bring that up to 8 because we just need more health. We can't afford to not have health. We do have a Sludge Belcher on the field, and that's great. I'm thinking of Dr. Boom or Sylvanas. We see that we're being spectated right now. So now the pressure's on, obviously, because we're being spectated, and when you get a spectator in the game, you gotta be more brave and show how manly you are by making stupid plays. So at this point, again, like, I'm just sort of thinking of ways in which I can keep board control as well as heal myself, right? And so now we're back to 8 health. What could kill us right now? Well, an Avenging Wrath where all 8 hit me? I don't think so. We've got a Sludge Belcher with a good amount of health, and we've got some pretty high damage creatures. And you could see in this game how fast things shifted, right? We were getting pummeled. We were getting destroyed with all these Silverhand recruits, all these reinforcements coming in and attacking, and there was that one moment in the game where we used that Holy Nova, and he had no cards left, and now we just snatched board control back. We have a good card control or card management or card number in our hand, and we're just laying it on him now. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, here's the deal. Yes, he's got 24 health and I've got 10. He doesn't have any cards. He doesn't have any cards. He could have 100 health right now. Right? He could have 100 health right now and it wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't do anything. Because when you have board control and card control, you are in full control of the game. There's not really anything your opponent can do at this point, except throw stuff out and hope that you kill yourself. Like, it's not... There isn't really much he can do, and it's in this case that I would say, you know, you could leave the game, because you're probably not going to win. There's not really any cards that can possibly get you out of this situation. I don't think. And he's saying well played because he knows it's happening. We're going to throw out Dr. Boom because Dr. Boom is the biggest BM that you can think of. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed these games. I hope you enjoyed the talk. If there are any specific decks that you would like me to try out, comment them below and put a deck list because that's probably the easiest way to do it. My name is Nick, and if you haven't played a late game oriented deck in Hearthstone yet, then start now.